This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Optimal Human Performance. Optimal Human Performance is a personal training company out of Spruce Grove focused on improving everyday performance while minimizing injury. It's run by a personal friend of mine, Zak Palek, who's extremely well-read in the field of athletic performance, and he's also Westside Barbell certified. I highly recommend you check him out if you're interested in training for powerlifting, sports, or you're just trying to be a healthier person, want to get back into shape. It's a great option. It's important to note that all of his techniques and methodologies he uses is backed by science. So you're going to get the best stuff possible that you're going to need to enhance your performance in your sport. Again, powerlifting, or if you just want to get back into shape, it's the best possible way. This isn't some guy who just did a weekend course on personal training. Now he thinks he knows it all. Hit them up on Facebook at Optimal Human Performance or on Instagram at OHP Training. Another episode here, Startups Podcast, and today we have a special guest, our first interview guest, Zak Palek, who's here with us. Thanks for being with us, Zak.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
So today, why we have you in here is people may not know that you've actually started your own company yourself,
yes, sir.
Optimal Human Performance. So I guess we'll start at the very beginning, the birth of this. So what were the steps that kind of led up to you making this company rather than just, being a trainer at some gym?
Yeah, so for me, it was kind of just a natural progression. My background is in football. I started playing when I was 8. Got into training probably grade 8, grade 9. And from there, I started training with a good friend of mine and the guy that owns the gym that I'm at now. His name is Brad Damon, and he runs Elite Athlete Training Systems. And so for me, I kind of just worked under him and absorbed some of the knowledge that he was giving me while I was training with him, and just wanted to get into it myself. And after my football career ended with U of A, decided that that was kind of the route I wanted to go. Football career ended a little earlier than I expected, and that expedited the process, but just always wanted to be able to get into the training side of things. Always enjoyed that and wanted to be able to kind of put my mark on it. Yeah. So the reason I started Optimal Human Performance was so that I could actually work at Elite Athlete Training Systems. Yeah. So I'm contracted there with my company under Brad and Elite Athlete Training Systems.
Okay, wicked. And that's nice. I know, I've known you, we've trained together,
yeah.
And you love this stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to do this as a job and help other people get into it is probably, you get so much out of that.
Yeah,
besides,
for sure.
Having the own opportunity to make a living at this.
Yeah. See, and I had already done training working with Brad, mm-hmm. and helping out him with his clients and having some of my own on the side.
Right.
So it just made sense for me to kind of dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you've kind of started it, well, I guess what were the steps that you needed to do to make it a reality? Because obviously, you've never started a company before. No. So there was probably a lot of things that you have to look up and learn, how do I make this legit?
Oh man, there's so many things that you have to go through in order to actually get a business. Yeah. And stuff that you totally wouldn't expect to have to do or mm-hmm. think of. So I had to go first. I had to make sure that the name wasn't taken.
Right.
And so I had to go get the search done and pay for the incorporation, wait for it to come back, and everything was all good there. So got the name, owned the company, and then from there, you got to do all your bank stuff. You got to get your GST number. Mm-hmm. All the things that you don't want to do when you start a company. Yeah. You just want to get right into it, but went through that and it went pretty smoothly. And then the next step after that was kind of building the logo for the brand, and I was fortunate to know somebody from the football team with the Bears that was big into design and could help me out with that. So
Nice.
Ben Kopczynski did a really great job on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We love the logo. I mean, me and you were just talking about it before we got on, and it's spot on, and it's really nice simple, but enough that you can throw it anywhere on a shirt and it looks great.
Yeah, it turned out way better than I expected.
Yeah, and you just got those hoodies made. You didn't have hoodies on your first shipment of merchandise made, did you not?
Yeah, I had hoodies and t-shirts for the first one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wicked. So since you've started it, how has it progressed? How has it grown?
Like I've been able to pick up some clients here.
Nice.
Brad is starting up a junior powerlifting club.
Okay.
So for individuals that want to get into strength sports, maybe are already competing in strength sports, but haven't really had the guidance that you would expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
So we've started that, and I'm going to be heading that up and taking that on. So yeah, should be able to get some more interest that way.
And your sessions are one-on-one, correct?
They're one-on-one small group kind of thing.
Okay.
So with the junior club, we're going to try and set up like times throughout the week that are going to be consistent training times.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we can have a few people in there at the same time and kind of put them on the right path. But for the most part, I'm like one-on-one. Yeah.
What are usually the age ranges that you're getting for young kids coming in so far?
Oh, we've got a pretty wide range. I got a call from a mom, and she had an 11-year-old son that she wanted to start. And we've already got a few like 12-year-olds at the gym.
Oh, wow.
Pretty wide range at the gym. Like we've got all the way up to like mid to late 40s.
Holy.
Yeah.
And they're, I guess, the starting points for kids, and then let's say, if me or Peter or Tolu wanted to come in, the starting points would be different as where you would start us off, or is it kind of like the same basis, but adults you'd ramp it up quicker?
Same basis. So how it works is we have levels 1, 2, and 3. Levels 1 are kind of just their introduction. We want to see what that person's already capable of, what their capacities are. And we kind of have some benchmarks that we want to see them hit before we progress them to level 2, which is going to be more specific. So it's going to be more directed to whatever their goals are. Yeah. It'll be whether it's a sport, whether it's powerlifting, whether they just want to get into the powerlifts and not compete. Mm-hmm. And then level 3 would be like our full blown, you're committed to the strength sport. You're going to be giving up some stuff such as flexibility, speed, endurance to specialize in those strength sports.
Oh, okay.
So it's really just wherever they start at and then where they want to get to.
Right. And I'd imagine like goal setting, no matter where you're trying to go with it, is super important and like a big motivator for people.
Absolutely. People always come in, they want to get somewhere, and it's just trying to put together a logical plan that's going to get them there in the shortest period of time.
You've got a lot of people, and they've all got different goals, right? Different reasons they're working out. What would you say are the biggest like motivators? Do they want to look better, or do they just want to be stronger? Do you get like a certain type?
We've definitely got like a fairly specific group in there right now. Like our biggest market right now is powerlifters. We've got a group of probably 10 guys that are in there like 6 days a week training.
Oh, wow.
And we've got guys that have yet to compete, and we've got guys that, are consistently putting thousands of pounds on their back. And like our owner Brad, he squatted 1,003 at his last meet.
Oh man. Crap.
Didn't get past, got called for depth. That was a little questionable, but we'll let that one go. And Alex Fenig is another big guy for us. He's competes in the 275 class. He's working on getting up to 308s.
Okay.
And he's another guy that could very well squat 1,000 plus. Other than that, we've got what was supposed to be our female powerlifting crew. It's kind of just turned into like our older clientele. So it's main ones are a couple, and they're competing in the master's class.
Oh, I see.
And for them, I think it's kind of just giving them something to do. They were competing in powerlifting before and then sought us out after.
Okay.
And they've done really well in the meets that they've competed in, and other than that, it's athletes, high school kids, university kids, people that are coming back from injuries.
Yeah.
We've got a guy in there that is coming off ACL reconstruction.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, Brad's been working with him and getting him back on his feet, and he's done really well.
Nice.
And that's part of your like minimizing injury stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. So another kind of reason that I wanted to get into the strength conditioning world is I experienced a lot of injuries in my university career as well. And there just seemed to be kind of a marketplace for that where like strength coaches weren't necessarily addressing the injury side of things or the preemptive measures needed. And so I think there was just kind of a need in the market for that. And that's kind of the direction that the strength coach is going now, as opposed to just, throwing up big weights. It's, how can we keep you in the game and minimize the number of games that you're missing?
Yeah, you want to, give them some sort of career longevity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're doing any type of weight program, there's always some kind of risk factor.
Yeah.
And definitely if you can minimize that risk, especially when you're doing something like powerlifting, it's amazing. It's perfect what you want, because you're working up to these meets, and then if you get there and you're not 100%, it doesn't pan out as nice. Like it's a big letdown. Yeah. It's a bigger letdown for you if you can't compete at 100%.
Yeah. It's the same thing with football too. Like you've got such a long off season. Yeah. Like even you look at the CIS season, and if you're on a less successful team, you've got 8 games in the season. Yeah, that's it. And the rest of the year you're training, you're working towards that point. So for you to get there and then have some sort of injury crop up, you could very well miss the whole season.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so what sort of stuff do you guys do differently? Like what sort of things do you stress if you want to minimize the risk that other gyms, other training places wouldn't do? Yeah,
so there's certain exercises that will kind of stay away from or try and minimize the risk with. The other thing we'll do is I just took my FRC course. It's called Functional Range Conditioning. Okay. And the whole kind of premise is we're looking to improve functional mobility, increase articular health and longevity, and increase articular resilience. So essentially we're trying to increase active ranges of motion. So instead of just your passive stretching, you can bend down, touch your toes. That's cool. What can your hamstring do in that lengthened or shortened position? Okay. And the other thing is trying to just improve joint health and increase its loading capacity. Right. So, let's look at MCL injuries for a second. If you take an impact from the outside of your knee and that load exceeds the capacities of that ligament, that ligament's going to be injured. So we're trying to increase the amount of load that can be taken through there.
So give you some resilience just in case you get into one of those positions.
Yeah, so there's kind of a 3-prong approach that we'll take to that, and it's a lot more detailed. I could talk about that quite a bit.
Well, you don't want to give away your trade secrets. Yeah. They got to come to you for that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But just kind of trying to take a preemptive approach and take care of things before they happen.
Right. So for the sports clients that you get, what athletes do you predominantly get? Like, do you get a lot of football? Do you get a lot of endurance athletes? Is there a mix?
We've gotten primarily football players. Right. We've gotten a few hockey players, a few soccer players, kind of whole spectrum, but we're pretty rooted in football. Brad and I both have a football background. He was the strength conditioning coach for the football team for a number of years. Okay. And that's how I really got my introduction to him.
Okay, so as strength conditioning coach, that's the guy who's going to be in the gym with them, getting them stronger?
Yeah, so around here, it's a lot different than in the States. They don't really have structured off-season programs for high school.
Okay.
So it would be more like the conditioning, more looking after whatever it is you're doing at the practices. Mm-hmm. And then those that decide to participate in an off-season program will come to us as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that structure, I know from our experience, any structure is highly valuable. Yeah. I think a lot of people are I would say probably scared to get in, or they're just confused because there's a lot of information when it comes to fitness nowadays that it's becoming super
All over
popular.
the internet.
Yeah.
You know, it just flies at you. You don't know where to start. I mean, there's so much, and if you can just handle that all and just lay it on someone else to just tell you, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a huge motivating factor for people to enter.
Absolutely.
Kind of the training aspect. Would you want to, you know, take up a strength and conditioning coach position down the road, maybe for some kind of team?
I think for me, like, I've seen kind of some of the difficulties with it. The thing that I like about being a private gym and like a private company is you don't really have others to answer to. Like, yes, I'm contracted with Elite Athlete Training Systems, but I'm not an employee of them. I get to make my own decisions as far as the training goes.
Right.
Whereas if you're working in a team setting, you're always going to have a coach that's got a hand in it. So whether that's a head coach that doesn't agree with some of the things that you're doing, or whether it's an assistant coach that thinks that you need to be doing something else, it's just a lot more invasive and less independent than if you were a private company.
Yeah.
So I think that's what appeals to me about it.
So just going back a quick sec to competition and the EATS athletes and stuff, I'm just kind of curious, as in the kind of culture, and when you guys go to these meets, are you kind of a team, or is it more you're an individual, but you're like, hey, like, I'm an EATS athlete, like, I'm with Optimal Human Performance? I see a lot of people, you know, really brandishing their logos when they go to these things, and, you know, Westside Barbell, like, I train here, you know?
So that's a good point. Like, powerlifting is definitely an independent sport, in that you're competing and trying to put up your best numbers. But I would say that no matter what you're doing, you're still working as a team. Like, we all train together, we all want to see each other get better. And with going to the meets and that, we'll have guys that aren't competing in the meet, and they'll kind of handle those that are. So whether that's helping them wrap their knees, you know, helping them load weights for warm-ups, whatever else. So it's definitely more of a team atmosphere than I think people look at it as typically.
Yeah. And that's an infectious aspect. I mean, if you look at the actual team, this CrossFit movement, and this tribe mentality is why these people are so fanatically passionate about it.
You're
being
feeding
part of
off
a team.
of everybody's energy.
That's why, you know,
lifting each other up.
A lot of people look at them and they think they're crazy, but they're just crazily passionate about this tribe mentality that they're in. And that probably helps a lot when you're going to this competition and you have your crew all wearing, you know, your t-shirts, and you walk in and you're competing. I'd imagine that helps to some degree.
For sure. Aspect. And even with the training side of that, like, we're always trying to compete with one another in the gym. Like, obviously I can't put up the numbers that Brad and Alex are doing, but, you know, you're trying to push the next guy, or, you know, trying to make sure that the guy behind you doesn't catch you.
There's definitely, you have to have that at least something to strive for, even if they're lifting way more than you. Like, you're always trying to catch someone, which is great.
Oh, absolutely.
So for people who don't know a lot maybe about powerlifting or fitness in general, and are trying to figure out maybe what is the best way to go about getting into shape, what would be the best way to educate themselves, would you say?
There's a lot of really good online resources. I think you kind of have to be skeptical of those that are selling you something.
For sure. They've got the book at the end, like, you know,
learn all everybody's got an ebook now. So I think you've kind of got to be cautious of if they're trying to sell you on something, or if they're, you know, just offering their services up. But I know a lot of really good people that I've talked to that, you know, you would think would be kind of celebrity and don't have the decency to respond. Those are the guys that are typically worth asking questions. Worst comes to worst, they don't respond, move on to the next one. But for the most part, I've had pretty good luck with getting my questions answered from people.
That's good. I mean, you gotta share some knowledge. It's because you're trying to help people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, increase their efficiency with getting in shape.
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to, right? Is if you're just in it trying to make money, I think you're going to be less successful than if you're just legitimately trying to help somebody with whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, whether it's getting stronger, getting in shape, whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you see that a lot now with the whole Instagram.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these people who have branded themselves as this not only this personal trainer, but this like lifestyle guru.
Yeah.
And I mean, with that medium, they can connect to so many people.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing up all these kind of products and, they're sponsored.
Yeah.
And they do they have these videos of their short workouts. And then as soon as you want to know anything, it's like, oh, here's a tax to that. Like, you're paying me.
Yeah.
And it must work because there's a ton of them now and they seem to be making some kind of living off of that.
I think the difficult part about that is, like you said, they're appealing to so many people, but it's so impersonal. Like if you're looking for coaching and, the first one that comes to mind to me is Bradley Martin. Like you see him posting all of his stuff and you see he's in good shape, he's strong.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's more to that than just some online 6-week program that he's going to send you, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it comes back to the personal training and the minimizing injury and personalization of everything is, unless I have the person right in front of me, it's really difficult to make an assessment on what's going to be effective for them.
Yeah.
Whether it's their own ability to complete the program, whether it's limitations through injury, whatever it is, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to that stuff.
And especially if you're sending someone this program online and you're not with them, you're almost kind of minimizing your own personal risk.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. They're not really like held accountable for anything that happens to those people, which can be dangerous because if you're a person who's seeking out their services, chances are you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why you're looking for their help.
Now, one thing I've heard about, I don't know how often this actually happens, is people go to gyms, I don't know, a YMCA or something, and they get the trainer and all of that, but the trainer is just terrible. They don't put in any work and they don't know what they're doing. So I'm wondering, you're obviously way more proactive and educated than some of those people might be. If I go into a gym and I get a trainer, are there any like red flags I could look out for?
Well, it's tough to look at a trainer and just look at the letters behind their name and know whether they're good or not, because there's so many courses out there, more than I could ever take. And it's hard to tell which ones are teaching them relevant knowledge, which ones are just, helping minimize their insurance payments. And obviously I'm biased having taken the Westside certification, but that took me years to study for, whereas you can go and take a weekend course.
Yeah, you could just probably go on the internet and like print out a certificate. So what is that Westside course you were talking about?
It's called the Westside Barbell Special Strength Certification, and it's an online exam, and there's a whole reading list of testable material. When you purchase the exam, they recommend that you study for 2 to 3 hours per night, and you have 6 months from the time that you purchase the exam to complete the test.
Oh, wow.
So what I did was, because I was going to school and doing all these other things and didn't have the ability to study 3 hours a night, is I just picked up most of the books on the reading list prior to and spent a lot of time reading through and trying to understand the material and figure it all out. And I was fortunate that I had Brad, who's also Westside certified, to answer a lot of my questions, and then actually go and write the exam. And I completed that in December. I don't know the exact number, but I believe there's under 300 people with the certification.
Really?
And there's an 85% fail rate on it.
Man.
Holy.
Yeah.
So you really had to, I mean,
You had to do real well on that.
Yeah.
You had to know your stuff for sure.
but for sure to be able to have that and say that probably gives you a huge amount of credibility when you're trying to attract clients. I mean, certain clients may not understand the levity of it.
And I think the majority of people, they don't look for certifications. And I wouldn't expect the average person to, look at that certification and be impressed by it at all.
Right.
I think you kind of have to look for somebody that is continuously trying to educate themselves and keep up with relevant topics, and just keep improving as far as their tools and the information that they possess.
Yeah, I feel like there's a tendency among beginners to they don't look at the qualifications like you said. They just see, oh, that guy's strong. He's like jacked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, everything he's saying must be right because and how would he be strong if it wasn't true?
Right.
And then maybe they could get fed just some garbage advice, some really dangerous things.
Yeah. Well, and it's difficult too because there's kind of a fine line between the person that actually follows through and maybe is really strong in shape, whatever, looks good, and they might not be able to apply principles and teach that to the average person. And then there's also the person that's read every single book in the library and could spit out all these facts but doesn't actually put it to practice.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of got to find the balance between the the pencil neck nerd and the meathead in the gym.
Yeah, and the point you made was something I was going to stress, is that going back to like the Instagram accounts, is when you see this person who's in amazing shape, it could be very misleading because you don't know their qualifications. I mean, for all they could just have God-given genetics. Yeah. And that happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you said, you can't really expect people to look at a, certification and know what it means. Yeah. So it's almost like a shot in the dark. And I mean, it's tough to get a second opinion with a trainer if you're, going to the Y and you're trying to get in shape. But for sure, I mean, it's better than not going at all and trying it out. Yeah. And maybe their style caters to you. Yeah. Like that could also be a possibility.
I think the things you kind of got to look for are they trying to get better? Are they reading? Are they doing courses? Are they themselves following through with what they're telling you to do? And what are their other clients saying about them? Like if they've got clients that are just bashing them and saying that they're not good, obviously look into that because, you never know the circumstances.
It's true.
But if it's pretty consistent that people aren't happy with the service, then that's a pretty good indication.
Where there's a smoke, there's a fire, right?
Yeah.
And it's true what you said. Like even though, they did their course and they have their certification, they should always be trying to expand their knowledge. Yeah. Even after that, which I know you do extensively.
Yeah, I try to keep up.
Yeah, and I mean I've seen, your kind of library that you're building and you kind of absorb as much stuff as you can. Yeah. And I mean with any practice, someone should be doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're also a kinesiology student, right?
Yeah, so I'm in my 4th year of my program. I've got one more semester of classes to go, and then I'll be doing a practicum, and I'll be finishing up my undergrad degree.
So what sort of stuff do you do in that practicum there?
So with the practicum, I'm actually going to be working at a chiropractic clinic in Spruce Grove. So outside of Brad, my biggest mentor has kind of been Dr. Jeff Kubos. He's a sports specialist chiropractor and really, really good guy. Spoken of really highly in his field and always kind of really willing to go the extra mile for his patients. And
it's probably like very fortunate that you've been surrounded with these kind of mentors to help you along the way.
Yeah, I've had a lot of good opportunities that way.
For sure. And I'm sure like you said, having your logo made and stuff like that, I think that it always seems to be a similar story when people are starting out. It's the helping hands and the mentors around them that have like kind of helped them get things going.
For sure.
So will that practicum, how is that going to affect you running OHP?
I'll probably have to shift around clients and just make it work the schedule. But I mean, it's the same way right now because I'm still in classes, right? So
right. Okay.
It's just trying to be flexible and make good use of the free time that I do have.
Yeah. So for how things are progressing right now, let's say 6 months, or let's say after the practicum.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see OHP go?
So the long-term plan for it is once I'm done my undergraduate degree, I want to apply to the Masters of Physical Therapy program at U of A.
Okay.
And kind of take it from there. So not only will I have the strength conditioning side of it, but I'll also have the treatment side as well. So it can kind of be all encompassing.
So you can expand beyond just like personal training and move on to just physiotherapy type stuff.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where the strength conditioning world is going. Like the market's so saturated with trainers, you've got to be able to add some sort of extra value. And I think that's one of the difficult things that I saw in my CIS career is just not having that connection between the clinicians and the strength coaches.
Yes.
Because the clinicians are the ones that are ultimately trying to fix the injuries. But the strength coach also is the one that's in there with them every day and should hopefully be able to prevent some of those things and at least speed up the process.
There was for sure a disconnect from my own experience too, was seeing, like you said, the people that are supposed to be making sure you're injury free, the strength and conditioning, and then also the people who are wondering if some teams don't have any, the nutritionists, like what you're putting into your body. And for sure that we've talked about extensively, people that we've played with, that's when they kind of falter. It's like not knowing how to run themselves optimally and put what they need to perform at a high level. Because there's definitely, as people are getting smarter about it and there's more information out there, they understand that it's not about all the weights that you put up anymore necessarily. It's about also what you're eating at the dinner table. Yeah,
for sure. And I think, like, I'm not throwing shade at any strength coaches or anything like that. It's just clinicians aren't able to do enough in the time that they have to correct injuries. So whether you get prescribed exercises regardless if you go to physical therapy or chiropractic, but if you're only going to see them once a week, maybe once a month, like they can only do so much for you. They can only give you so much information. So I think ultimately having that person that's able to do both is going to be kind of the most effective thing long term.
Which is what you see nowadays. People try and be the trainer nutritionist now. And which is completely smart. I mean, that's what you have to do to be competitive. And from my own personal experience, that was the thing that I had to learn to kind of take my health to the next level, was figure out how to properly, diet, or not even diet. Like, diet has a very taboo, stigma to it, but you have to change your eating habits. Like,
diet just sounds so temporary versus, like what you eat, right?
And I mean, for me was that documentary that I showed you, Hungry for Change. That was like where I kind of, the eye opener for me on looking at how I ate. And you watch something like that, or you read an article or whatever triggers that thought process. And then it's funny now, I look back and I think about my old eating habits, and you probably do too. And you're just like,
for sure.
Well, no wonder I didn't have a 6-pack. Like I was eating Smokies and like garbage every day.
Crushing cheesecakes.
Yeah, exactly, right? So for what you know now, because I know you know a lot more than me, you were on that one, you went on that one kind of diet, what was that called? The whole?
So I did what's called the Whole 30. It's like a month-long reset. So you cut out all these different foods that typically cause whether it's inflammation or discomfort or just bloating, whatever, stuff that people don't typically react well to. So things like gluten, added sugar, processed foods mostly. And that's kind of what I've tried to base my eating off of now. And this goes back to the book we were talking about earlier. It's called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And it's pretty rooted in evolutionary biology, and same sort of thing as what Dr. Spina, the inventor of FRC and functional anatomy seminars, talks about, is what are humans evolutionary based to do? What are you doing now? And what are you doing to compensate for that? So whether that's the fact that you're not moving very much throughout the day, transitioning from that hunter-gatherer pattern to, sitting in a desk, whether it's eating these processed foods in excess or just having excess food. So just kind of looking at what was expected of us, what has been selected for, and just like the drastic changes that have occurred in a pretty relatively short period of time.
I think also he touched on, and I'll probably let you explain it more, your body is designed to anticipate famine, which is why we hold on to stuff. He kind of goes into that in the book. I don't know if you want to kind of explain how that kind of his kind of thought process.
Just based on what the food habits were and the availability, you couldn't just walk up to your fridge and make yourself a sandwich when you're hungry. You had to actually
like catch your breakfast.
Exactly,
down
right?
Some deer or something.
So I mean, that sounds really weird to us nowadays, but I mean, when you look at what's changed in the course of like even 500 years,
it's true.
So to go from just being able to walk up the stairs, grab something to eat versus going out with your boys and hunting down dinner for everybody,
following the herd.
So when we're in this excess environment, you're going to be more exposed to like a hyper-calorie kind of environment, and just having too much to eat almost.
So like the big concept was that our bodies are designed to anticipate famine, which would be kind of like the winter coming for a lot of people. So when your body, tastes something that has a lot of calories, it says yes, because it wants to pack on, that extra layer to keep you alive. But now there's no more famine.
So I mean, in some ways, it's almost working against what you're trying to accomplish, right? So it's trying to anticipate that and work around it.
And I definitely think that when you talk about eating healthy and eating more organic, a lot of people dismiss it. I think they kind of, it's not as complicated as they think. I think people, when they think about nutrition, you see all these crazy charts and this pyramid and all these food groups. And it's a lot more simple than people realize. I would say, and it's a lot easier to eat more organic. I think people think, I have to like find some farm outlet. It's very accessible. It's not that hard to do.
There's kind of a few different aspects to this. Like, I'm by no means, a fitness model or anything like that. Like, I'm a thick dude. I like to lift weights. I like to eat. But people that look for food tips are just looking for some sort of like miracle cure or
like an easy way to do it.
Like some sort of like quick change. But realistically, it's as simple as don't eat boxed processed foods. Make what you can. And like just eat your vegetables. As simple as that sounds.
It is true. It is that simple. And I feel I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are still in the mindset that fat is the enemy, like we were talking about kind of earlier.
Well, I'm in a health ed class right now. It's called population health, and we look at a lot of the tendencies of just the average person, and like that's still huge, is the fact that body fat and like dietary fat share the same name is probably like one of the worst things to ever happen.
Yeah.
Because people think of adipose tissue, so what you have stored as fat on your body,
Okay.
and they look at dietary fat and they just associate them as completely the same thing. So it's like if you eat fat,
Right.
you're gonna get fat.
But that's not the case.
It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And there was some like lobbying or something, wasn't it? Where I think it was sugar companies. In this article I read a long time ago, and don't know the specifics of anymore.
Yeah.
They wanted to get people away from thinking sugar was bad. So they say, don't eat your steak or whatever.
Yeah.
But the sugar's fine. That doesn't make you fat, and that's kind of where some of that stemmed from too.
Yeah. There's a documentary on Netflix too. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure like sugar is one of the main words in the title, but it kind of talks about how it was marketed, how that's changed the like social construction, the ideas around sugar, and they sold it as energy pretty much. Like you eat this, you're gonna be energetic.
Yeah.
And
because when you're a kid, what did your mom say to someone who was giving you candy or something? Oh, don't give them too much sugar. They're gonna get hyper.
Yeah.
Not they're gonna get fat. That was never like said.
I've actually never thought of that. That's really, they don't say like sugar's not healthy. They just say it just makes you hyper.
Yeah.
Which is totally indicative of that kind of culture that those sugar companies help create. And it was very, very smart, because I think one of the points in those documentaries when they were talking about sugar is that they were smart as in, they said America, because it was an American documentary, so they were talking about them, but Canadians do North America. America likes enemies. They like having a target.
They like wars on food,
war on drugs, war on
trans
this.
fat, like
obesity,
So that's what they did. They were like war on fat. They characterized fat as the enemy, and then all these fat-free things started popping up.
Yeah.
So it was very, very smart of them to do. And there's a lot of sugar-free stuff popping up now, but there's also kind of the underhanded aspartame chemical stuff that comes with sugar-free.
Aspartame, sucralose, all those different additives that, I mean, I haven't read all the literature on, but I know that it's not a health. It doesn't lack any sort of consequences to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even it's like training. It's just like training one evil for another.
Yeah.
So staying on kind of the topic with nutrition, I wanted to kind of get into supplements.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would say that that's probably the other really daunting part about getting in shape is like,
all of the giant tubs with all of these names you've never seen before and the like lightning strikes going across the label and stuff.
Yeah, because my girlfriend's starting to get into fitness.
Yeah.
So I took her to GNC and hooked her up, and I just got her to get Promacil by Rivalis.
Yeah.
And so just like calorie, whatever, good for her. And then I just let her get their pre-workout, the powder burn or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because to us, it's just like it's like, oh yeah, like you can take that, you don't really need it. Like most of that stuff is totally like you don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But to most people, they walk in there and they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering to get kind of maybe some supplement advice for new people, your own philosophy, like what you kind of believe and what you take. And so for you, what you do, and then for other people trying to get into it, where should they start?
Yeah. So for me, supplements are exactly that. They're a supplement to an already complete diet. So if you're eating well and looking after everything, you shouldn't need to take a lot of supplements.
Yeah.
If there is a hole in your diet and you can fill that with a supplement, great. But if you're eating like garbage and not taking care of that end of things, then supplements just aren't going to do a whole lot for you. So from like a starting out standpoint, if you're eating pretty well, you're eating enough calories throughout the day, you're getting, your fruits and vegetables, then really the only thing you might need is a protein supplement just to help, so you don't have to eat that extra chicken breast or whatever, or extra 2 chicken breasts, depending what you're trying to do.
And like you were saying, like, what if you're not a big eater?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's supposed to help with. And that's why I changed from Promisil to Gold Standard Whey, because I need more calories. Because there's no way I was going to eat as much as I needed to be in a caloric surplus and put on those pounds. Yeah. So for someone like Peter, let's say, he wants to put on weight, and I know tons of people that have the same body composition and same idea. He's going to start lifting weights. Yeah. He's maybe getting stronger. He's getting a little more toned. Yeah. What would you say would be
where do you start?
Yeah. What's a good supplement, maybe kit for him to start him off?
I wouldn't even say like too much as far as supplements, because if you look at a lot of those higher calorie, like protein powders, a lot of the stuff that they add in there is just extra sugar.
Yeah, it's the sugar again coming back in there.
Like, I remember in high school, I had a really difficult time putting weight on, and my coach moved me to D-line, so I needed to put a few pounds on. And I'd go to the supplement store and pick up like those big 10-pound bags of mutant mass.
Oh no, mutant mass.
And cookies and cream flavor, and I'm pretty sure they had like actual cookie pieces in there.
Oh no.
And like it was delicious, but obviously not like a great option calorie wise. So if you're really trying to put weight on, I would say things like adding in olive oil to your shakes, or cooking with more cooking oil.
Calorie dense stuff.
Yeah, so more calorie dense stuff.
I've heard of a diet called GOMAD diet, gallon of milk a day. And if you're on the internet, that's what they say you should do. Yeah. Some people, you just straight up drink a gallon of milk every single day. Yeah. And that apparently does something. I don't think it does.
Well, I mean, you're gonna put some weight on for sure. That's a lot of milk. Yeah. I've heard lots of people talk about this before too, because like if you look at a cow, like obviously the milk is designed to make them these big, massive creatures,
big
right?
burly bastards.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole other like controversy surrounding dairy, but we won't get into that for this podcast.
Now, I've noticed among like people who are new to it, or people who are unfamiliar to supplements and all of that, I see that they kind of tend to lump that all together as steroids. Like, oh, Zach, you're taking creatine. I heard steroids aren't good for you. Why are you like
anything that's pill form?
Anything
sketchy.
That's pill or powder, they think you're just like injecting it in your veins and like running around punching kids in the face or something.
No, and I think that's kind of like your typical like mom's response to their son coming home with their jar of creatine, right? Like, oh, I heard that's not good for you. That's not good for your liver. All this stuff.
Your balls are gonna shrink, Timmy.
So I think there's just a lot of misinformation around supplements. I think they're definitely not that effective. Yeah. For the most part, like it'll help, but in the grand scheme of things, there's no miracle pill.
Yeah, and I think the best way to put it is what you said, is they're a supplement. Yeah. To supplement an already full healthy diet.
Yeah, like there's nothing you can take. Like you can't just go pick up a tub of Rich Piana whole food and exactly. You're gonna have 24-inch arms or anything like that.
So for the way I've looked at it personally was just, I'll take the way you get more in shape. Yeah. Besides nutrition, is having good effective workouts. Yeah. So I basically say I'll take anything that's going to increase the effectiveness of my workout. So that's why I take pre-workout.
Yeah.
And so I just take, I don't even remember the brand, the NO Explode one in the red tub.
Right.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. For people who might not know, what is pre-workout? What does it do? Because it's not steroids. It's not
No,
like...
I will try and give a little, but you correct me because
Yeah.
you'll probably know more. For what I understand, pre-workout is a mix of stimulants, sometimes using caffeine, taurine, sometimes not. A lot of companies have their own chemical blends that they give a name and they copyright.
Proprietary blends.
Exactly. So they give a blend of these stimulants basically to just increase your heart rate and give you a ton of energy. They have these other chemical blends to increase the pump and also some endurance, muscle endurance enhancers. So these are all claims. I mean, I don't think a lot of them are really backed. And then some of these pre-workouts have creatine complexes in them. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, you pretty much hit the head on most of it. Like, it's typically some sort of stimulant that's going to increase your awareness, arousal levels so that you're more interested or more alert at the gym. And like Beth said, like, there's things included in there that'll help you get more of a pump, so to speak. So things like citrulline malate and different compounds that'll affect with that.
So for someone starting out, I mean, would someone want to stay away? Do you stay away from the caffeine ones? Do you don't mind them?
So for me, I don't take any sort of a pre-workout supplement. I don't drink coffee or anything like that, so I've got a pretty low tolerance for caffeine.
Right.
So when I do have it, I usually get some sort of like headache or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So again, you've kind of got to look at the ingredient list, and especially if you're competing in a drug-tested sport.
Right.
So like, I know when Brandon and I were playing football, we had to fill out this god-awful course every year.
Oh, yeah.
The WADA, whatever.
Yes, the WADA drug testing thing.
Yeah. So, there's lots of things that are on prohibited lists that aren't necessarily banned. So just because you can pick it up at your local Popeyes or GNC or whatever doesn't mean that it's allowed within your sport, whatever the reasons may be for them prohibiting it.
Yeah.
So you've really got to look at that. And I guess the other thing is just, what are you trying to accomplish? If the pump is something that you enjoy, you like, you're into it, like Arnold there.
Yeah. Well, he has his own pre-workout muscle farm that's like known for enhancing the pump.
Everybody's got a supplement company now.
Yeah, that's true. Mark Wahlberg,
like every bodybuilder's got one. Phil Heath had one. Kai Green's got one. John Meadows. Like, everybody's got a supplement line.
Even those guys from YouTube, Twin Muscle Workout. I'm wearing one of their hoodies right now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they got their own line of supplements, post, pre, protein.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fairly easy. I mean, if you've seen Bigger, Faster, Stronger, you know exactly how easy it is to get your own protein. Yeah. And if you haven't seen this documentary, Bigger, Faster, Stronger, do you remember the guy? I can't remember his name.
It's directed by Chris Bell.
Chris Bell, yes.
Yeah, he's Mark Bell's older brother, I think. And he does this documentary about essentially like the American culture around performance and steroids, essentially.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Mark Bell is, he was a former multiply powerlifter, and he trained at Westside for quite a while before opening his own gym, Super Training.
Okay.
And he's got his own supplement line too.
Oh, really?
Slingshot Protein, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, they go into like some of the misconceptions around it, some of the cultures around just strength sports or bodybuilding or fitness in general. And in the documentary, he actually goes down to like a little stop or whatever and hires a couple of like Mexican immigrants.
Your classic like Home Depot Mexicans, basically.
Picks them up and takes them home, and they make a supplement.
Yeah, they just like make their own protein.
Oh man.
And like package it in his house and completely legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to bring up, because in the States, I'm pretty sure legally you don't have to really back up your claims. If you say your supplement does a certain thing, they don't really regulate that too much, do
Yeah, I don't know like the specifics of it, but
Yeah.
I know Canada is a lot more heavily regulated than the States.
Mm-hmm.
I remember different people talking to me about supplements that they could get in the States that they couldn't get here, and they're
Right.
so much better.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I think it's, you have to go through certain tests and regulations if you want a certain like stamp on your product that says certified by blah, 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 blah. But if you don't want any of that stuff, then I'm pretty sure you can bypass a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, even, like there was a pre-workout that I took last year that I got from the UK that's not here.
Right.
And the big thing with it was that it had a testosterone boosting complex in it.
Right.
And everyone at bodybuilding.com was raving about it, so I was like, oh, I'll try it. But it's interesting, like, if this is so good, why isn't this here?
Yeah.
It kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of misinformation and unknowns in the supplement world, so
Yeah, that just seems to be a theme in just fitness in general.
Yeah.
Just misinformation everywhere.
yeah.
Where do you
Well, a lot of it's just like huge marketing, right? And like same thing I said about trainers is the market's so saturated. It's the same thing with supplements. There's so many different companies, there's so many different products, and a lot of it just comes down to marketing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
who is it advertising your product? Like if you've got Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath saying that he uses your protein powder, then you know, naturally everybody else is going to go and buy it.
Yeah, it makes it. That's exactly it, and it's hard to sift through kind of the nonsense. And I think more now, I mean, I would say there's a lot more ones that are just fine for you than there are ones that are super bad for you.
Yeah.
And there's going to be very few that are like exactly what you need.
Yeah. It all depends what your tolerance is and what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at supplement ingredients, a lot of them will contain artificial sweeteners, whatever else.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's your call. If you're okay with that, then I mean, by all means. But
Yeah.
in general, supplements don't do what I think people expect of them.
That's true. The reason I take the pre-workout that I take is not only did I go online and kind of like look up the best ones that some people say, I kind of chose mine because it has creatine in it, because I didn't want to have to, take that protein and a creatine. It's just easier for me. It was more convenient. So that's kind of like my motivation for taking the one that I take.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as I personally would say, as far as like a protein powder and a pre-workout, if you want it, and maybe the amino acids, beyond that, I would just ignore everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is advertised that the majority of the population doesn't really need.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like a super elite athlete and you're trying to get some sort of advantage, then maybe it's worth looking into a little bit more. But for the general population,
if you're just like Philip, who like works as an accountant, you probably don't need to be buying the elite level stuff. And that kind of comes back around to OHP, where you're kind of cutting through the noise and you're clearly educated about this and you know how the workings of that. Are you ever planning on adding some like nutritional aspects to it?
I don't think I'd ever do a nutrition side to it, just because for me that's not my main focus. I think there's a lot of people out there that I could refer them on to, and they would get success that way. But I think for myself, I want to maybe focus more on the injury management side and the actual physical performance side.
Some questions?
Yeah, I got some questions. I've been kind of dead this whole podcast.
This is Tolu, ladies and gentlemen.
Tolu's trying to wake up over here.
We actually have him sit in the corner for the first part of the podcast.
We're not going to talk about what kind of morning I had this morning. So I just had a couple questions just written down here while jumping between the recorded and pictures. Have you taken a strength and conditioning class yourself? And do you find that you kind of have to take one to get into it, or just having interest is enough?
Are you talking as far as like working with strength conditioning coach kind of thing?
As far as,
or like a course?
I guess being a, I guess there's two sides to it then. So there's the course side, and then there's just working with the strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah. So for me, like the West Side certification was like my main course. That's what allowed me to start training people. There's other courses that are offered, you know, there's your CSEP, CPT, your CanFit Pro, whatever else, which, I mean, that's kind of a whole different issue, is what are you really learning? What is it that they're trying to accomplish? Is it adequate? As far as the coaching side, I worked with Brad from Elite Athlete Training Systems before it was really even established. Like he was just starting out and getting into powerlifting himself. And so I was fortunate to be able to train with him and learn from him as he was learning.
So it's pretty helpful then to have kind of that one-on-one.
Yeah. Like it makes a big difference having somebody who can kind of lay things out for you. And I had worked with a personal trainer previously. For the most part, I tried to kind of come up with my own stuff. Like I was totally the guy that read the bodybuilding.com articles and like tried to put together my own programs. But it definitely helped having Brad point me in the right direction and kind of like having made his own mistakes so that I could bypass a lot of that.
And that kind of leads to the second question actually, which is you talked about how, you know, there are many people doing different things out there, and you kind of, you know, and you've worked with people that have decided like, this is not quite the way to do it. So the question is, how do you decide your way is better than someone else's way? Is there like certain guidelines so you can see people clearly break, or is it like for the most part you kind of fill it out?
I mean, if you have like a well-founded background in, you know, the science of strength conditioning, you can kind of make judgments off of that. The stuff that's actually been proven, like, you know, your law of accommodation, progressive overload, law of specificity, stuff like that, you know, has been shown time and time again to be relevant and effective. When new information comes out, I think it's always important to look at it and be familiar with it. And if it seems like something that fits within your principles, then our process is kind of like, if you're going to add something, you got to try it for 6 months and make your judgment. So like Brad and I will do our own stuff and we'll make changes to our programs. And, you know, if it works for us after the 6 months, or we deem it as being beneficial, then we'll start to implement it with other people. So realistically, we're kind of like the guinea pigs of whatever goes in our program.
Which is really good. I feel like people who are there with you really appreciate that.
And I mean, like, you're going to make mistakes when you're programming. Like if Brad and I have this conversation all the time, you look back to the stuff that we were doing when we first started, like we laugh at it, or like we see like glaring issues with it. So obviously your program's going to evolve, but I think the important thing is to evaluate the information and then make those changes accordingly.
And I think that's really good that you guys do that, and your clients can have the confidence that whatever they're doing, you guys have tested personally yourself.
Like you wouldn't make them do it if you hadn't done it yourself, right? Yeah,
and I mean, I think kind of when we go back to what Peter had initially asked about, like things to look for, if your coach is constantly just like scrapping his methods and like doing new things,
which we had a lot, I guess. I would say. I mean, if you're really confident in what you're doing, you shouldn't make big sweeping changes to your program. And I mean, I think this is another thing that comes up a lot, is everybody knocks Westside for like kind of just being like a little club. Everybody looks at Westside and wants to say like, oh, like they just don't like conform to what others are doing, and like they just do stuff to be different. Like we're not loyal to methods at all. We're loyal to results. So I mean, if I had to throw out everything I know about Westside and
do something else to get better, I would.
Yeah.
Like there's no loyalty to just a name or whatever. It's all in the name of getting better.
And even, I guess, if you learn some kind of new methodology, like not everything's going to fit within your goals. You can't adopt everything.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, a really nice look at what you're trying to do at OHP. I mean, we appreciate you coming on and talking about all this and educating. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have a lot better understanding of, you know, if they want to get into this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Where to start. Hopefully they start at OHP. That's what we here would recommend.
That's what I hope for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you want to, now you can plug whatever you want. If people want to get in contact with you to, you know, start some training, they want to ask you some questions, you know, buy some t-shirts.
Yeah.
If you want to plug your Facebook and all that.
Yeah, so you could find me on Facebook, just optimalhumanperformance.com, or you could just go / not sure which one it is, OHP Training on there. And then on Instagram as well, it's just at OHP Training. My contact information's on there. You can message me, text me, call me, whatever.
I'm
email.
gonna put all the links and stuff too on the YouTube video and all
Yeah,
that.
we'll
good.
throw it up on there.
Yeah, like if you have questions, whatever, if you want to ask about the training, by all means, you know, get in touch.
For
I
sure.
don't have a problem answering questions outside of that.
Awesome. I'm sure I'll probably have some questions for you after. Brush up on my old dusty stuff I've been doing, right? All right. Well, that has been our first interview. So again, appreciate you coming on.
You,
this is
Zach.
awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
And
it.
hopefully we'll have you back on again down the road, and we'll check in with you on how, you know, OHP has grown and all that. So Tolu, what do we got for the outro song this week?
Outro song for this week. I'm gonna pick that right now.
Oh, really?
It's gonna be. Let me
Off
see
the
which
cuff.
one. Actually, I'll put out the one that I released today.
Oh, there was
Yeah.
a new one today?
Yeah, I just dropped a new.
So this is like the
No.
premiere, like exclusive first look.
Worldwide exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. It has like a nice trap feel in the verse, and then the chorus is all like salsa type, you know, like cha
I
cha.
do like salsa.
So it's two different things, and then I have the Bill Burr snippet on there. It's
Oh yeah, stay
kind-
tuned for this.
kind of
It's
controversial, but it
It's a
has
good
a nice bow tying up the whole thing in the end.
Awesome.
All right.
So if you want to get in touch with us, the Startups Podcast, you can reach us at the startupspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, if you want to have an interview, you've started your own kind of little company and you want to get the word out there and talk about your experience, feel free to shoot us an email.
Or even you have questions for Zach next time he comes back.
Absolutely. We'll gather the questions and then we'll pepper him with them next time.
Like, don't be afraid to
boy.
be hard hitting here, guys. Like, ask the tough stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna have to study for this.
New certification, the
Yeah.
startup certification.
Oh, God.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
right off the top of my head. You can wake me from a drunken stupor, I can still give you like 9. So there's plenty of reasons to hit a woman. You just don't do it. But to sit there and suggest that there's no reason. Dude, the level of ego behind that statement. What are you, levitating above the rest of us? You're never annoying. Women, how many times have you thought about slapping your guy in the head this week?